I think of this as much as anything, just a celebration of this work that's happened. We'll do a quick presentation so you can see inside the book a little bit, just a sneak peek. But thanks for coming and having a coffee with me and celebrating celebrating these last 3 years of my life. I appreciate it. Thank you. Note I see, online. I've got some family participating as well. I know lots of you accounting's not your first passion, your first love. So it's going to be very accounting-like, but I just want to show you some of the sort of pedagogical enhancements that have been made to the book to help out our students. I also want to note, I believe that Toby Willis Camp is online, and I've got Arandi Harris in the audience as well, and they were sort of as much participants in this book as I was. So Toby has done project manager work and editing work for the book. Really, really heavy lifting, and so I do appreciate that. Also, little bits of encouragement to keep me going. So Toby, I appreciate your positivity and your wisdom in that. Arandi Harris is here as well. He is my web design and coding genius. Don't be shy, it's true. And so he did the HTML coding and all the CSS, like cascading style sheet coding as well. And that was a huge, if any of you are computer geeks and want to take a look at the HTML coding for this, it was no small feat. Pressbooks isn't really made for tables and equations, and so Arandi made that all fit. Square pegs, round holes. So thank you for all that work, Arandi. Graphics design was from John, who has worked on a couple of other projects for me as well. For any of you who know my board game and have seen my board game that I developed, he's the same person who developed that. So thanks to John. And the exercise templates I can't take credit for either. That was Tom, Kate, and Paige, who were student assistants, paid for through that OER grant. So much appreciated the OER office and the U of R for that grant money that allowed me to pay all these lovely people so that I didn't have to do, so I got to do all the things that I love and not the coding. Thank you. Also, I should mention that there's a lovely PassChem team. They've actually just won awards for their book. Absolutely incredible chemistry sort of tutorial online book that is also published in Pressbooks. And they really helped guide in terms of the sneaks and little tricks to get tables and practice problems and some of the interactive elements into the book. So I'm really appreciative of them. And then all of the U of R texts go through double peer review. And so many thanks to the peer reviewers who I don't know at other institutions for giving my book a bit of an edge in terms of the pages and pages and pages of love notes that they sent me to improve that. So I really do appreciate that guidance that helped improve the book itself. We're going to look into the book just a little bit. These are some of the things that were really important to me and guided as I went through. Really at the top of my mind was accessibility, particularly for students for whom English isn't their first language, so that it's relatively easy to understand through plain language and lots of visuals to guide mark. And also for our students who have disabilities, particularly like ADHD, dyslexia, learning disabilities. And so all of the design elements like the text, the font that we used, all the styles, the color of the background, all of the colors that we used are accessible even for individuals who experience color blindness. And so that was really at the forefront of everything that we did. There's more information on accessibility in the foreword to the book. So if you're interested in that, Or if you're interested in seeing the full document that I prepared around accessibility guidelines for the book for adapting your own project, I'm happy to share that. It's a compilation from many, many different places, and a lot of help from John on that as well. All right, so navigation. These are graphics that John and I worked through. So it's topic mapping. Accounting, some of you know, is not necessarily linear. So there's a lot of back and forth. So the topic mapping just allows us to go back and relearn or revisit topics that were introduced in different chapters. So here business models are talked about in chapters 1 and 4 and then readdressed in chapter 7. So students know where to go back to get that information, but doing it in kind of a playful way. It's colorful too. So it goes from really dark to, I think, chapter 12 is our last chapter, and it's kind of a pinkish color. And so as we go on, there's the color scheme involved as well. So topics introduced are with a light bulb. Then we have topics that are building. And then in some areas, we have the topic discussed, but it doesn't necessarily relate back to the topic. So that's our way of sort of engaging students and helping them to orient themselves within the book. We also have some sidebars. So remember back and tell me more boxes. Randy's looking at me like, yeah, I spent days and days on that. So remember back to say, hey, I just want to jog your memory. These are things that we talked about before that you might need to know here. And by the way, if you need to go back and look at it, you know, here's often a link to go back to that chapter, to that topic. And then we have tell me more boxes because I really want to make the text of the document straightforward and keep any side conversations to the side, even though students may, especially our really engaged students, it may help them to have the additional information to contextualize what's happening. So we have tell me more boxes, and there are many, many, many tell me more boxes in the book. Yeah, so remember back and tell me more. Again, that plain language to create sort of a playful tone to the book. In terms of the language itself, I mean, some of this comes back to Marina Rennie, who I don't hear, but Marina's really good at using some playful language, like we call T accounts and journal entries change makers because it's a bit playful, and accounting is sometimes quite heavy. So for example, here the first change making tool is T accounts, named for their T-like shape. We'll give every account a T, including assets like cash, accounts receivable, and many, many others. The account name will show at the top of the T, and there will be numbers on each side of the middle line. Here's an example. And then we have steps. Steps are always in this format with the purple. We have steps for our examples. We have steps for student work, and really helping students to understand the process. And then you'll see down here, it says, wait, what's an opening balance? And then we explain it, right? So that conversational kind of tone to the book, being playful and trying to make accounting a little bit more fun. We follow a think, see, do approach. So every topic is introduced and we give concepts, then we give a concrete example, and then students have an opportunity to practice it by themselves. This is not like other accounting textbooks where there's a lot of text and then exercises at the end. Instead, we integrate all the examples within the chapter. So we'll see these icons. Again, this was John designed them and Randy implemented it, and I just said yes. So This is the think and then see and then do, so that students can orient themselves and understand what they're meant to do in each given section. And then the do part. You'll notice the pencil with the gears up here. This is a do part, and we have a, your turn. It's a my turn, your turn idea. Your turn, they click on this, and up comes an Excel sheet. And so students get to learn Excel right from Introduction to Financial Accounting. And all of the your turns are structured. So this is where students will fill in their work, and this is their information that they need to complete their work. So it's quite tailored to student responses. I will say that the templating is quite involved at the beginning, and then it drops off a bit at the end on purpose, so that students, as they become more familiar with Excel and more familiar with creating financial statements and financial information, they are encouraged to do that more and more on their own. And then there are solutions for each of them as well. Again, very encouraging, great progress. Just one more, let's go, fantastic. Let's move on to internal controls, how to keep cash from going missing or being stolen, right? That's sort of conversational, engaged language. Okay, so we had some challenges going into this. I'm going to let Randy talk a little bit about the challenges. I'm just going to do next steps real quick. Randy's great too, because he actually was in my 285 class, and so got to use this textbook when it first came out. And I'll tell you a little story. Randy came up to me one day after class, and he said, I'm a computer science superstar expert. Exactly that. That's my paraphrase. And I said, oh, interesting. My ears perked up, and he said, yeah, so I'm trying to extract information from your HTML code, but I've noticed that in some places it could use a tune-up. Would you mind if I just went in or helped you to go in and tune a couple things up so that my extraction would be easier and it would look more professional? And I said, can I pay you to do that and expand the scope of what we're doing? And so he helped me out in that way. Next step is to do a PDF version, keep it going in Biz 285. I'd like to do some financial literacy work around this, especially like on First Nations, I think would be really interesting. And I use this resource in a flipped classroom. So we mostly do examples in class, and I expect that students know the concepts from reading the textbook. So we have a discussion about concepts, and then we do exercises, difficult exercises in class. And so I'd like to publish the teaching resources that I have for that in a more polished, professional way, so that other instructors at varying institutions can use those. So do you want to chat a little bit about your involvement and your perspective with the book and some of these issues that you came up against? Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah.
Thank you for the credits and kudos. So good morning, everyone. So quickly going through the challenges. Overall, this was I use the word interesting as an experience. Being a student in the 285 class and also working on the textbook for the class was a very difficult moment for me, because I wasn't from a business background at all. So I'm learning all this new material for the first time. And then having to ensure that this goes well into textbook format on the web was also something I've never done before. So when we talk about tables, everything that you see in the book as a table, whether it's a financial statement, a journal entry, or even the T account that was just showed, it is a HTML table, right? It wasn't a picture or anything like that. It was literally hard coded to look the way it is and style to fit the book properly. That was the challenge. How do I make this material fit across all these different chapters, and also making sure that the overall mission of accessibility was still met and understanding for all students was also kept throughout the book. I definitely spent hours to make sure that the foundation that was there before I started was kept. So I had to understand, okay, what was done before, and then ensure that implementation continued along that line. For formulas, it was also a similar thing. None of that was copy and pasted. All of that was a unique plugin that Pressbooks offered that we had to work with to then ensure that the plugins fit. That made sure the formulas fit. And again, the challenge with that was making sure that the formula matched to whatever was taught to us in the class. And that for me helped when I was learning different sections of the accounting course, specifically accounts receivable and inventory. When we went through some of the formulas required there, seeing how Jackie structured it in the class and then making sure that that type of conversation continued through the textbook was also a unique and interesting challenge for me. But again, lots of hours, but I welcomed it. And for the last point, I mean, I get a lot of PTSD when I talk about styling or when I mention styling. Even when Jackie was showing some of the pictures that tell me more boxes, I can remember the sleepless nights trying to make those boxes stay where they are. That in of itself was a unique challenge. I've never had to create CSS styling for a textbook that goes on the web in this very unique way. And it required a lot of patience, a lot of research, a lot of encouragement from Jackie to keep going. But also understanding that the work that I was doing was for a greater cause, right? For a bigger purpose. So I had to keep going, keep pushing through it. It did require the initial like struggling through, okay, what was going on here? I don't understand why we're doing this, all of that. Asking Jackie questions, she's looking at me funny, like, what are you talking about? But then we figured it out. And in conversations with John and Toby and everyone else on the team, it definitely helped to make sure that the styling fit. And yes, I spent hours looking at screens to make sure that dots were in the right places and stuff. But it still was a good challenge for me. And I definitely think it helped me to learn more in the 285 class. As Jackie mentioned, it was because of my, let's say, initiative, why we got involved in the first place. But again, a textbook like this is something I would 100% support because this was one other book I didn't have to pay for. And that was my big selling point. And again, supporting this was a unique challenge and initiative in of itself. And I think I came out at the end knowing a lot more about Pressbooks than I did ever before. And now I have a love-hate relationship with styling and all that. It's good.
He's working on a project with me right now around style as well. So
Yes, making things look good on a web page or stuff like that is not my strong suit, but I think I'm learning to understand the craft that goes behind it, and I'm appreciating the challenge. I say it to Jackie all the time. I welcome the challenge. Yeah, so I think that is it. One other key challenge I wanted to mention under styling is again the point of accessibility. So sometimes you would implement something and you think it works great and it looks fine for my eyes and stuff, but I had to look at it through a different lens. A lot of the images, a lot of the tables, a lot of the text itself, we had to run that through a different accessibility check to make sure that it still met the standards. And that was one thing that the tool Pressbooks itself offered as a plugin too. So that's one way we kind of checked our work to make sure that it was still meeting our overall standard. But yeah, I'll hand it back to you, Jackie. Thank you for
slash desperation. Yeah, just action.
And just about the tables, a lot of textbooks have tables as pictures, but then they're not accessible by screen reader. And so a lot of the love we put into the tables and massaging the tables is entirely so that individuals who use screen readers can read those tables and have them understood through the screen readers. And particularly for financial accounting, where all of our financial statements and whatnot are in tables, that's quite a lot of content that we wanted to make sure are accessible by screen reader. So there was a lot of love and, like Toby says, massaging that went into those tables to both make them look good, I think, as they did in picture format, but also are incredibly accessible via screen reader. So I am happy to take any questions, comments.